Hello everyone, and welcome to a bonus video on Sandship the Last Engineer about tips and tricks I would personally recommend to you or anyone who really wants to get into it, or for recurring runs. Again, this is an engineering game. I trust you to be able to figure these things out on your own, even in a very slow capacity, or production speed I should say, but regardless, welcome. Now, right off the bat, you might see two things that probably might catch your eye compared to what you might be expecting, being a bajillion microfactories and a lot of substance harvesters. Now, the reason for these is simple. Substance harvesters, as you can see here, produce 16 substance. Now, unlike Harvey here, who says we're bottlenecking and it's giving us efficiency issues, and just upgrade capacity. Capacity doesn't mean production. I think he's shorting out for efficiency's sake. But yeah, having an extra capacity. Here's the thing about capacity. When you're underproducing it, it underclocks your factories to work with the inputs. So that being said, if you run your factories at full, they're just going to have slower inputs, but if you try to balance with capacity, they're going to produce like the same thing. Really, there's no reason to try and optimize the substance capacity. Like, this bar should not go down under any circumstance. So, substance harvesters. They cost a fortune. I'm not even going to say a small fortune, they just outright cost oh so much. And you're going to want so many. Which again, it's top of my playlist, it's loud. Make a money factory, please. Contracts do not give you remotely enough to sustain the growth of a factory. So just start producing, just make a money plan to keep upgrading it along with the video. And you'll find that suddenly things like this can be afforded. Now onto the microfactories, you might realize compared to the basic building, the microfactory doesn't just have worse stats, but it also costs more than twice as much. Why would you want them? I think it's pretty obvious. Space in the Sandship is just very high priority. And the fact that having both of these, like, the levels between these two buildings are equal. So, a basic building at level 5 is a 12 by 12. Which is also what it is for a microfactory. Now you'll see in this one, it says 16 by 12 because I put one upgrade into it, and I think we can really see the problem here. I shouldn't have to explain why I don't want to pay that. And plus, I know my original steel design did need that, but you've probably seen if you watch my other tutorials, extra space just isn't that necessary. Now, extra space in factories might not be necessary, although I will say, however, if you try to go with my first playthrough, you'll realize that I make my steel products in the same steel factory, which, as you can tell, cost me to upgrade to a level 6, pay a premium with gems, and overall, just kind of terrible of throughput. So, another thing is, don't be afraid to specialize buildings. And especially, do not be afraid to export and import goods. The reason why there's the entire mechanic around importing, and why I'm pretty sure even the game recommends you actually unlock. Is it? It's somewhere in here. That's a level 4 unlock. Yikes. The reason why the game recommends that you get never mind. The reason why the game recommends you get the importers and exporters fairly early, if I'm not mistaken. I wouldn't really know where to find it, because I haven't looked earlier. But essentially, essentially, exporters just... With exporters, you can do this. Now, there's no way I can make 5 steel plates a second. However many this factory wants, 3.75 per second, unless I get a bigger building. Use importers and exporters. I don't show this normally, but this is the barrel factory. It's smaller than the maximum footprint of a microfactory. The sole purpose, producing barrels and bottles, right? And now this is all space that doesn't need to go into a full factory, which, yes, I know I'm handicapping based off of factory size, but that doesn't really matter too much. And another thing of note is if you pick up a factory, you might think, oh, that cleared all your structures. Well, actually, no. If you put the factory back down, everything is intact. So don't be like, oh, you know, I need more space, let me just stash everything. If you need more space, and on your Sandship, but you have buildings where you can buy the buildings and upgrade them easily enough. Again, money production in this game with recyclers is extremely important, which I think is kind of ironic that we're recycling goods, you know, that we produce with substance. Why are we recycling this? We are the ones making this garbage. But regardless, importers, exporters, I used plenty of it in oil and steel, and like, I wouldn't be able to run this factory if I had to make the glass bottles here. Yes, there's space, but that's the other thing. You can only have 5 synthesizers and 5 importers per building. So now it comes up to what's worth it. Is it worth it to have an importer for carbon per se and have another factory turning it out or something? Moving on, sandbox can be very useful. I shouldn't have to explain to you why using a sandbox to prototype designs is good, especially in the early game when money is more of a dream than a reality. That being said, the game forces you to unlock it, and it unlocks blueprints, so I think, you know, spamming has to be done. Personally, I like the sandbox, but I personally find it causes the game to crash if you set it to bigger than 12 by 12 and also microfactories. Don't go beyond 12 by 12, so that's fine. Puzzle building exists. That's a fitting name for it. Would I have any recommendations in terms of Everstone? Well, depending on your production, it might not actually cost any substance to run. Now, as you can probably imagine, a building which is a 4 or 3 by 3 on a Sandship where each building is a 2 by 2 suddenly becomes a problem. With micro buildings, I even have space left over. Also, the music in here is so big. It's pretty interesting. But as you can see here, just a fairly, I mean, it looks complex. It's not really. What should be noted is even though you unlock the Mark III gun, at the same time you unlock steel ammunition, I didn't realize it at the time, these things can still take normal ammunition. Now, I think it's kind of interesting because you either go up to level, why did my screen get dark? Oh, I'm low on power. You can either A, you know, spam level 3s like I did for their pretty much instant kill potential, using standard ammunition, or you can make steel ammunition to use faster turrets, like the level ones, because I believe they probably one-shot with steel ammunition. I have not tested it. And regardless, personally I found this to be a pretty cheap and convenient method. The walls, they tend to like shooting horizontally and really wasting their time. This likes to crash your game, by the way, if you're here for too long. This with the harvester, I think is actually because it did crash my game, and I've frankly been too scared to try and touch it again, which I don't blame. 2 things of note in here is, first off, when you pick up walls, you can only have a maximum of 50 in your inventory before they start just outright deleting themselves. I've deleted thousands of walls from existence and not been able to get them back. I don't know why, of all the structures, walls have a resource, or a storage capacity, when nothing else does. Because I've had like more than 50, like, things. Maybe not, but like, you often have more than like 50 belts in your inventory. I don't know. Maybe it's universal, maybe not. It's only really relevant with walls. So, I guess that's something. And in regards to the resonator, you really only need 1 resonator unless you can make the best designs known to man. And the reason why I say this is because the more resonators you build, the more enemies that spawn. And the more that spawn, the calculated output of Everstone dramatically decreases. So, essentially, you want to make more, just make a better defense. Don't build more resonators, you are actually just shooting yourself in the foot, unless you know, actually want to get really good at this mode. As you can already see, I'm lagging. I didn't want to try the thumpers, I even made a specialized design out in here, but that never came to fruition. I don't believe... I think, yeah, this one. You can use it if you want. You unlock it so late into the game, it doesn't matter, but just keep producing Everstone. If not, just for some free gambling, which I didn't even need. Besides, you know, literally just gamble, there's also that one person who shows you steal who's completely flabbergasted that you forgot to turn it off. So let them have it. And here's just the oil design. Now I do believe I actually built a factory using this design right over here. No? Was it? No? This one? Yeah, it has a modified version. I don't know. Yeah, and there's always room for improvement in all these things. I don't really have any other tips or tricks, besides always have one of your ships doing contract runs, or I guess you only have one. So always be running contracts. Don't be afraid to, you know, experiment. Just leave the underwell on, it takes like no substance, and with micro buildings, space is never going to be a problem. Just produce more substance. You can never have enough. And also not enough steel, which is why you need so much substance. Seriously, steel is really overpriced. The game's lost support. It's not going down. And, I mean, just don't be afraid to import and export. At the very end of the day, just experiment. I'm pretty much one of the, like, from what I saw on YouTube, I was one of the first people to figure out recyclers make money. Now, I don't even believe the tree tells you this. You get both the recycler and also the incinerator, and the recycler just sort of doesn't do much, except you can see it produces credits, which I'm kind of surprised it doesn't just make substance, because it would be kind of interesting. For example, you take your excess light oil and then you recycle it back into substance instead of money. Why are you so expensive? Really, it's hard to say, but just look at the little details. You might find something that's really helpful. I guess I could go on about how... Not in this one. I'm sorry I'm going to show the car rack again. But here, to stop pipes from merging with one another, I used open pipes. Now, they count as a runtime diode, where as soon as one side is triggered, that sets the direction of the pipe, and also, not only does it stop backflow, it stops crossflow. And in these in this circumstance, I couldn't use an underground pipe, and as you can see here, open pipe works just fine. Although it looks oh so incredibly cursed while doing this. So be it. That's not really my problem. And if you get good at the game, you can turn even the biggest disaster of a factory into something surprisingly functional. Again, don't copy this design, please. I mean, I actually have to run the plastic all the way around, just because I didn't have space to do it otherwise. Like... yeah. Don't copy this, please. I don't really have anything else to tell you. I guess I could also just tell you how much it takes for something to cool down, which is like 4 belts. This should be flipped, honestly. Really, I don't have much else to say, but I hope if you're if you're a returning player, or, you know, you just want some more tips, tricks, and stuff because you're kind of struggling a little bit, I hope this helped. Clearly, it was not scripted, and I just sort of started running off things I found useful. I mean, like, the more I sit here, the more I think of, like, there's some resources in this game you don't need a lot of, except for just raw steel. I put it in that factory, come to Steel Forge, turn this belt around, put an exporter on the end. Frankly, I have that in one of my factories. I don't know which one, though. This one? Yeah. Just turn them around. Because those forges, yeah, it might make 5 plates. It makes 15 steel a second. You need that. I shouldn't have to remind you of why you need that. But you will need that. A max level Sandship only produces 55. That can't even run the money plant. Mint, whatever. So, yeah. And I guess I could say ratio your stuff. So that way you can make sure you have a good setup. Make sure to ratio your stuff and clearly just spam inserters because I couldn't be bothered to do the ratioing myself. You didn't expect to hear that, did you? No, I don't always ratio, so I'm not gonna be a stickler or whatever about it. Because frankly, you don't need ratioing, except sometimes it's nice to have good ratios. Nice round numbers, you know? I don't know, I'm stalling for time in a video which I don't need to meet. Like, I can end this right now. And speaking of which, I think I will.